So welcome to the Diplomat with Stephen Taylor. Thank you very much for taking out the time and joining us today. So today talking about the US election. We'll talk about that a bit later on, but joined by Johann Abrahams, uncle, Malume. How are you, my friend? You know what Malume means?
It means uncle. Uncle. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Malume. No, it feels strange to sit on this side.
I know.
But you know, in Pretoria, it would be Johann.
Yes.
But I always told him, yeah, in Kaapstad is Johann.
Yes.
Of Johann. So yeah.
So you're the well, for people that don't know, you work here at BRICS TV. You're the executive editor, executive producer.
I do everything.
Executive
Cameraman,
everything.
editor,
Yeah.
video editor. I have to jump in sometimes.
Yeah. No, it's nice to have you on this side of the show, and I know that you do a lot of news reporting and stuff like that. You keep up to date with what's happening in the news. But let's go back to who Johann is. Like, where were you born? Yeah.
Strangely enough, I was born in PE. People often think I was born in Cape Town, but I was born in Port Elizabeth.
Oh, the Windy City.
In the old, it's like the District 6 of PE,
yes.
Fairview.
Oh.
When I tell people I was born in Fairview, then people usually tell me, oh, my grandmother was born there.
Yeah.
So I was born in PE in Fairview, and then my parents just happened to be there. So I was just conceived there and born there. Okay. And then we came back to Cape Town, which is the home, Cape Town. And Genadendal, which I call my spiritual home.
Oh, right.
Because that's where both my parents are from,
yes.
my mom and my dad. Both had their roots in Genadendal, oldest mission station in Africa, and that formed obviously my character as well, and a lot of thinking, especially when it comes to indigenous people. That's the soft point for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you are of Khoi descendants. I see that there's a lot of talk going around at the moment about the Khoi people. There's been people that have set up camp on Table Mountain. Tell us about the Khoi people and the history of the Khoi people.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of confusion as well about the Khoikhoi. Who are the Khoikhoi?
So is there the Khoi San and Khoikhoi?
Let me unpack that.
Yes.
It's Khoi spelled Khoe. So we're doing away with the old spelling.
Okay.
And it's pronounced Khoikhoi. It's difficult to pronounce. It's like Khoikhoi.
Yes.
Khoikhoi.
In the Afrikaans throw.
Yeah.
Khoi.
So it's almost like a G sound there.
Okay.
And then you have the San, or the Bushman. I mean, they prefer to call themselves Bushmen anyway. David Kruiper used to say, ek is a Bushman.
Yes. So
don't call me a San. Yes. They actually don't like the term.
So it's two different
But anyway,
people.
for the sake of, I think for uniformity, I think we all refer to them as the San.
Okay.
And it's two different groups, but they're genetically connected.
Right.
They come from the same root.
Okay.
It's just that, so the Khoi were actually Bushmen.
All right.
They just speak the different language.
Yes.
And they had a different lifestyle, a different economy.
Yes.
They became, from hunter-gatherer, they moved to an economy of owning livestock. And so they became herders.
Oh, yes.
And because they were herders, they had to move south. They were originally in northern Botswana. And the split came there, and they started moving south into our coastal areas, Western Cape, with its winter rainfall, so luxuriant pastures, so, it was ideal for them to be here.
Okay.
And that's why they ended up here 2,000 years ago. So that's a long time.
That is a hell of a long time. So my next question to you, as we know in the saying, who was first, the chicken or the egg? Who was first, Jan van Riebeeck or the Khoi people? Do you know?
Yeah, when Jan
back in 1652.
When Jan van Riebeeck arrived here, in fact, the Khoi had a roaring trade. The ones on the
so they were already here. They were already
been here for thousands of years already.
Okay.
And the Bushmen have been here for 200,000 years. They're cousins, if you want to say,
yes.
Call it that.
Yes.
So they are the Aboriginal people. And when Van Riebeeck came, they were involved in trade with the ships, passing ships.
Yes.
That was their business.
Yes.
The Goreng Haikonas. Harry, the strandloper, which his name was actually Oudtshoorn.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Harry was not a stupid guy. He could speak Portuguese, he could speak English. And because he was on an English ship before.
Oh, yes.
So they ran a good trade with all the passing ships, supplying them with water, with salt, with wood for, the ships break and they have to repair.
Yes.
And meat. So that was going on. So the Dutch actually interrupted their trade or their business when the Dutch came. And they thought they were also just visitors.
Yes.
But then they pulled a fort and they started expanding. And when they saw these guys coming with plows and taking over land, they could see that something, and that resulted obviously in the first Khoi-Dutch War of 1657, somewhere there.
Sure. So then if we go back to, I see that there's a lot of people now saying that the Cape should be independent from the rest of South Africa. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I don't buy that sort of arguments.
If there's anybody that can claim to be Cape Town is theirs, it's the Khoi people.
Yeah. But they wouldn't make such a claim.
No.
There are some groups that might make such a claim.
Yeah.
But in general, the general concession is that we are, a lot of them say, and I say them, I mean Khoi descendants are saying, first of all, we need to recognize, South Africans or other South Africans need to recognize that the Khoikhoi were the first people here and the San. They were the first people here and they should be respected for that. There's territories which they roamed, which they were evicted from, they were killed.
Sure.
Their cattle was stolen.
Sure.
A lot of people, we used to grow up thinking that there was a bartering process that took place.
Yeah.
That only happened in the beginning.
Yeah.
After that, it was whole-scale theft and killing of massacres took place.
Yeah.
In the Eastern Cape is a big one that we all know about, and then obviously afterwards they had the commando system that went out. Commandos went out with the idea or the purpose of killing and stealing, killing and taking. So within 50 years, the Khoikhoi's traditional way of life, traditional meaning the kraals, that totally, almost totally disappeared.
And you know a lot about the Khoikhoi people because you've done documentaries and stuff like that on the Khoi. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on it first. I mean, my whole life, I was preparing for this, I think.
Oh, really?
So, my father was also a historian. So for my whole life, I was always like talking about this stuff. So here now, for the first time, I had a chance of actually making the film that I always thought I was going to do. So I did a 13-part series. And the research came from, a lot of the research was with Dr. Velabusak, gave me a lot of insight.
No relation to Alan?
Penn, Alan's brother.
Okay.
Nigel Penn, the Professor Nigel Penn, UCT, and people like De Jong, Michael De Jong, a lot of, and I can't mention all the names now, but I had a lot of input from a lot of people. Another person was the late Dr. Danny Titus, who gave me great insight, and so it came together. We got some wonderful reviews in a very prestigious American publication that reviewed the film.
Wow.
Not the series. I did an extract of 66 minutes, which people could view, and they gave us a great review. Currently, it's been distributed internationally, not in South Africa yet.
Okay.
And soon it will be on Maori television.
Oh, wow.
Because they expressed immediately interest in it, obviously for obvious reasons.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Wow, so that's a great history lesson. But what I think should be happening is though that the kids in school should be learning about these things. But are they? Is it part of the curriculum? Are they learning about our country's history like that?
Not enough for me.
Okay.
And I've spoken to kids, about, do you know this? Do you know? They don't know.
Wow.
They don't know the heroes.
Yeah, we know about Shaka and Dingus Weir and all those things, Jan van Riebeck, but we don't know.
Our people, ourselves, we don't, and we should actually do our own research into our own people. I mean, we had heroes, and these heroes are not being recognized.
Absolutely.
And nobody is going to do it unless we do it ourselves.
That's right.
So I think this film is the first step in getting children to understand and to know their history.
Yeah. Which can then be showcased in schools and stuff like that.
So it's very important that children, especially grade 10, 11, and 12, that they see it. Okay. And I've started making, I've started the screenings in schools on the Cape Flats.
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah.
Okay,
and when kids see it, they're really blown away by the history because it's stuff they didn't know.
I'd love to see it myself, but yes.
You see, then they would also get upset
Yeah.
when they see a Zulu guy dancing on Newlands before a rugby game.
Yeah.
It's fine if they dance in KwaZulu Natal,
Yes.
Kingsmead before a game,
Yes.
and you have a Zulu guy there.
Yes, because that's.
But
the,
I think it's
yeah.
a total it's a total disregard
Yeah.
for the history of the Cape if you don't have a Khoi guy opening the rugby game or opening any ceremony,
Yes.
like they did with Parliament
Yes.
recently. So that's a step in the right direction.
Oh yes, I saw that. I was
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was amazing. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving focus from the Khoikhoi now to the U.S. election, which is something completely different. And you actually lived in the U.S. for a couple of years. Tell us about that.
Yeah, luckily I got, during the apartheid years, I tried to get into institutions to study film and I never got the chance. Wanted to go to Pretoria Technikon. That was the only place where you could learn filmmaking.
Oh, wow.
So obvious reasons I couldn't get in
Yeah.
there. So then I got a big break to go on a scholarship to the States. And I spent 4 years there. I did a honors degree there, a bachelor's plus honors. And I did a double major in film and
Sure.
broadcast news.
Sure.
So the 4 years that I was there, I obviously could absorb the culture. It's a great place to live, but
You
it's not
stayed
home.
where?
I stayed in a very rural area in Kansas,
All right.
and it's Lawrence, Kansas,
Oh.
which is more,
Okay.
it's a university town like Stellenbosch.
You didn't see Dorothy.
We're not in Kansas
Oh,
anymore.
yeah.
But it gave me a chance to travel while I was there. I traveled everywhere.
Is it big? Is it
It's huge,
Is it?
but it's cheap to travel.
really?
Yeah, because gas, as they call
Oh.
it, is very cheap.
Yes.
I had a Pontiac Sunbird. Cars are cheap. I had a nice 1-year-old Pontiac Sunbird convertible that I drove around with
Wow.
for a student.
Wow.
And I traveled the whole of the country. My brother came to visit me once. I took him to Vegas,
Sure.
took him to New York,
Sure.
took him to LA,
So now you
Miami.
seeing those things in the movies and stuff like that, and actually going to those places, is it totally different? Is it like a?
It's
is
pretty
it
much
better?
like it is
Okay.
on the coast,
Yes.
East Coast, West Coast. But that's not America.
No.
You have to travel by car through it
Really?
to get the feel of the real America.
To experience.
Because that's the Bible Belt,
Yeah.
like Arkansas, Kansas,
Oh yes.
those places. And that's why Trump won. People forget that America is not what you see on TV.
No.
It's not New York. It's
No.
not LA.
No.
It's Kansas. It's Arkansas. It's
So
Missouri.
How
it's
far?
Iowa.
The traveling is far. You travel
Yeah,
for
it's
long.
quite.
So you
far.
travel
I mean,
overnight.
From Lawrence to Chicago, it's about 8 hours drive.
Sure.
Down to Miami, it's 24 hours to 22
Yo.
hours.
Yo.
You have to break it up.
Yeah, you have to
You
split.
drive to Atlanta, 10 hours, then from
Sure.
Atlanta to Miami.
So you travel a lot.
I traveled a lot, and then Vegas is not a bad trip because you can drive one way.
Okay.
I think it's about 10 hours to Vegas.
But if I called you a colored person in the U.S., that would be a derogatory
Oh,
term.
that would be a totally no-no.
And then why do we allow?
When they hear people
Yeah.
talk about color, they say, why do you guys call yourself colored?
Exactly.
Aren't you black?
Yeah.
And there I felt very black.
Oh, really?
I mean, really black.
Oh, they
because
treat you as such.
Yeah, because,
Okay.
for obvious reasons,
Yes.
you are black because...
It's just white or black. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
There's no
there's
in
no
between.
in-between.
Oh,
then there's Hispanic, of course, but
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't fit into the
No,
Hispanic
no,
thing.
no.
I was black. Light-skinned black,
Yes.
but I was black.
sure. So was that different for you? Was it like a culture shock and change?
Not really. I felt very much at home.
Or is it?
Yeah. I had lots of friends as well, South Africans that were studying there, and,
All right.
we used to hang out.
Okay.
And it brought us a lot closer, But that was apartheid days when we were very separated in South Africa.
Yes.
So when I was there, we
that
were
was
like different
Before
cultures.
94.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's early 1990,
Yeah.
1990 to be precise.
Oh, wow.
So it was, South Africans hanging together, irrespective of even your political
That's good.
affiliation,
I like that.
One guy was very IFP.
Oh, really?
One guy was like, most of us were ANC, of course.
Yeah.
We went to vote together for the first time in our lives in 94
There.
in Chicago.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, really?
We drove to
Wow.
Chicago, 5 guys in a Pontiac Grand Am, across 8 hours drive,
Sure.
stopped in St. Louis first,
Sure.
And then went to vote 8 o'clock in the morning. And
Do you vote at the embassy or the consulate?
at the embassy in Illinois, in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in the main street.
That must have been an amazing experience for you.
Yes, yeah, and we were interviewed, of course, by everybody when we were there. It was an amazing experience because there were a lot of South Africans coming from all over to come and vote there.
Sure.
It was one of the big voting stations.
Sure. So now let's fast forward. Well, let's 2016, Donald Trump won the election in the US. People were surprised about that and shocked. And I think that there was a lot of people that thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win. That's why they just thought, we're not going to vote. So Trump is never going to win. And he did. And then everyone went, oh. I was actually at an event where we were checking the results and the results came through and there was champagne there. We all just walked out. We couldn't believe what just happened. We didn't celebrate nothing. We're just like, oh.
We were all, yeah.
It was a shock.
It was a big shock. It was an eye-opener.
Yes. Like going from Obama who try to unite America and the world and bring us all together, and then you get that and you're like, yeah.
And despite all the negative reports that came out about him.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that I like is the one, not like, but the particular one where he talks about women in a very derogatory way. And you still have women voting for him. I mean, how do you justify that?
Yeah.
How do you trust a man like that?
I know.
To lead the country.
I know.
So, and he's making news all the time for all the wrong reasons.
I know.
I mean, this whole thing of not conceding.
But that's what he thrives on. He thrives on news and saying things to get the attention, which kind of...
And his populist way, it's like bringing people also...
but I think Julius Malema's also kind of followed that trend. Because if you remain relevant, people are going to... You become popular like that.
If I have to profile a typical Trump voter, it would be somebody that doesn't have a college degree.
No.
Somebody living in a rural area.
Yes.
Somebody that dropped out, maybe out of high school even.
Yeah.
And just doesn't like people that doesn't look like him or her.
Yeah.
But also and there's millions of Trump. Trump really caused Trumpism.
No, he did.
Which is that kind of people coming out.
He might have lost this election, or we'll determine that soon, but he still gained votes.
70 million people voted for him.
I know.
Even more than before.
I know.
So it shows you that also that racism in America
is still alive.
Pretty much alive.
But it's about getting that base and talking to that base of that white supremacist, those people that want to live on to that, hold on to that, we are better, we are, and he's spoken to that base, he's got that base, but sadly,
he's got that base and it's huge.
It wasn't enough to, we'll see in December what happens if once they certify the election, but for him not to concede, I think there's two issues around that. Firstly, if he doesn't concede, that affects him as a president and his reputation.
Yeah, the legacy is totally,
as Joe Biden said. Yeah. Secondly, if he's saying that America is corrupt, he's actually destroying his own country. Because if he's saying that the elections are rigged, what does that say for the rest of the world? That looks at America and says they're the greatest or whatever.
Now you look at other countries where America would interfere and say democracy, you're not following democratic principles.
Yes.
And he's doing the very same thing. Those guys are probably laughing now, saying we should put sanctions on you.
Exactly.
There's also the security risk to them that they're very concerned about, that I pick up from major networks.
It makes them vulnerable now.
It makes them very vulnerable with the president doesn't concede and the other one waiting in the wings.
Yes.
And there's no working together relationship.
Because when now something happens, he picks up the phone and speaks to a world leader. They're like, well, what do you want? Yeah. Like, we've already congratulated Biden already. We want to work with him. Yeah. Even the Prime Minister of the UK said that recently. They want to work looking forward to working with Biden. So
I also heard that he made some threats to bomb somebody.
Oh, really?
Iran or somebody.
Oh, yes.
So One of the advisors said, no, luckily we got checks and balances. I mean, the president can't just order a hit on a country.
No.
But, I mean, why does he do it? Nobody knows.
No.
Nobody knows why.
I just think he's a sore loser. I don't think he likes the power, and it's all about Trump, and it's all about, I mean, he's been staying at his own hotels, which the taxpayers in America have been paying for, so he's been getting money from that. Look, he has some strong points, but a lot of weak points.
Yeah, definitely. So, a lot of it, a lot more.
But yeah, I tell you what, we'll just have to wait and see what happens, and we'll discuss this again next week on the show, so this will be continued. We'll have more of a discussion because we need to talk about this and, you know, educate one another of what's going on in the USA. So, Johann, thank you. We will catch up with you again on the next episode of The Diplomat. And a week is a long time in broadcasting. Hey, we'll see what happens. Maybe he does concede in that week. We'll just have to wait and see. But, yeah.
He doesn't have a choice.
No, I don't think he does.
He will be dragged out of the White House kicking and screaming.
Yeah, it's never happened, but it could happen. Eh?
Imagine that.
January 20th, sorry. 12 o'clock on January 20th, he's no longer the president, legally.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see what happens, eh? Yeah. Anyway, Johann Abrahams, thank you very much, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
We'll chat again next time, and look forward to seeing what has happened in the next week. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there we go, another episode of The Diplomat with Stephen Taylor. Thank you to Johann Abrahams for speaking to us, and just a great conversation. We will continue it next week on the show, because this is not over. The election is not done. We all thought it was done, dusted. We thought, there we go, 279, 214, it's over. It's not. We'll have to see what happens next week. Get in touch at Stephen Taylor SA on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you to Papi, thank you to Akona, and thank you to you. God bless.
While Donald Trump is keeping a low profile, Joe Biden is putting himself front and centre. This was an event to discuss the Affordable Care Act, but the president-elect took questions on other topics, and he had a message to the man he'll replace and his refusal to accept the result.
I just think it's an embarrassment, quite frankly. The only thing that, how can I say this tactfully? I think it will not help the president's legacy. I think that I know from my discussions with foreign leaders thus far that they are hopeful that the United States democratic institutions are viewed once again as being strong and enduring. But I think at the end of the day, you know, it's all going to come to fruition on January 20th.
While foreign leaders are calling Joe Biden to congratulate him, Trump's Secretary of State, America's top diplomat, has called the result into question.
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right, we're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly.
Various government agencies and departments, it's been reported, have been ordered by the White House not to help with the presidential transition because, in its view, the result is still in doubt. That hasn't stopped Joe Biden pushing ahead with planning for day one, even without the immediate assistance of the Trump administration. And the leader of the Republicans in the Senate says the delay won't create problems.
I don't think anything that's occurred so far interrupts an ordinary process of moving through the various steps that I indicated and allowing, if there is a new administration, it to work through the transition. All of these steps will be taken at the appropriate time.
This election has already seen a lot of legal challenges. There might be another one coming, as the Biden campaign considers going to court to force Donald Trump's team to start planning for a handover of power.